73% of Americans list money as being their number one stressor in life. Most people spend more time planning their vacations a year than they do looking at their finances. They don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
What do you believe is the holistic definition of wealth to you?
True happiness and true abundance, true fulfillment, especially around money, comes from internal inspiration.
Welcome to Toxin-Free with KB. I'm your host, KB, also known as Kate Middleton. On this show, we are here to educate y'all on how to reduce our toxic exposure in our everyday life. On today's show, we are joined by Seth Streeter here on the road in Austin, Texas. Seth is the Chief Impact Officer and founder of Mission Wealth, a leading wealth management company. He is a thought leader in the area of life-centered planning, helping people reframe their perspective of wealth beyond the financial to enjoy a more balanced, impactful, and fulfilled life. Some of my favorite takeaways about this episode was that we really explored connecting your finances to your values to bring ultimate happiness. We talked about manipulation with money and the power it can hold within your relationships, and navigating wealth while living a truly toxic-free life. So let's jump on in, enjoy the episode. So I just want to kick off the show with my golden question. My golden question, which is, does money contribute to happiness?
It's a great question. And actually the answer is yes, but to a point. There was actually a study in 2010 from Princeton University across 450,000 people, so it's a very broad study, and they concluded that there is a correlation with happiness and income, but up to a point. At the time in 2010, that point was $75,000 a year, which inflated today would be about $105,000 a year. So essentially, if someone today earns up to $105,000 a year, they should be able to provide for themselves, shelter, clothing, food, medical care, and those are the basic essentials that people need in order to have happiness. But the correlation above and beyond that $105,000 income level actually goes way down. So we really need to think about when we're trading days for dollars above that kind of low six-figure income point, because the trade-off might not be there for you when it comes to happiness.
I'm going to call it the spending sprawl.
Okay.
Let's call it the spending sprawl between the extreme rich and the extreme poor. And then when I think about these, I think about other countries. So you are about to embark on a journey to Bhutan. And many of us know, or many of us may not know, that Bhutan is very unique. They're very unique in that they measure the success of the nation by happiness. So we're on that path of happiness. They call it the gross domestic happiness. And where us, especially in the United States, we're so measured on the gross domestic product. So tell me more about that. Tell me more about that journey you're about to experience. Tell me more also about why you think that Bhutan is so unique in that aspect.
So as a country, they've had their GDH, their gross domestic happiness formula, for many years, and they measure qualitative and quantitative aspects of people's happiness. And of course, in the US, we measure GDP, gross domestic product, the sum of our total output. Now that's the measure of success. And I think we can learn a lot from these other countries, and Bhutan's not the only one, but they are building the world's first mindfulness city, which is pretty amazing.
Wait, how? Like, what does that
They're
entail?
organizing a city that's focused 100% around mindfulness. And they're going to encourage people that are wanting to live that way, businesses that want to operate that way, travelers that want to orient their vacations that way, all around mindfulness. It's a very spiritual country. It's a country really based on purpose. And so they are walking the walk. They're also very into sustainability. They're one of 3 carbon positive countries in the world. They produce 1/5 of the world's water. It's a small landlocked country in between India and China, but the Himalayas are there. There's tons of water that's produced there. So they're a giving country, and I think they're going to lead by example. And I'm so excited to go for my first time, and then I'm going to be leading some retreats there. So I'm excited
Really?
I'm going to be leading retreats there, yeah.
Can I tangent a little bit? What are your retreats going to be about?
It's going to be called Purpose 3.0. So it's for people that are wanting to kind of design and ignite their next level of purpose in their life. A lot of the types of people that want to go to these programs have followed the scripted path of success. They've worked hard in school, they worked hard in their career, maybe they've started a business, they've been grinding, and then they get to the top of the first mountain and they go, is this all there is? And they look around and say, well, gosh, I've made some money, I have some relevance in my career, but the adventure in me feels ignored. The artist in me has been neglected. The lover in me feels lonely. Yeah. And I want to feel like I have more purpose and meaning in my life. And so they glance over the hill to the second mountain and they start to think about, what would that look like if I tried to live a life of purpose, live a life from a place of meaning? And it's an exciting opportunity for people who are at that point where they're ready to kind of hit the pause button and reflect on their life, to go to a place like Bhutan and just really immerse themselves in a purpose-based country as they start to imagine what their next chapter of life will look like.
Awesome. I love that. I cannot wait to kind of maybe I'll go.
Maybe.
You never know. Maybe
never
I'll
know.
go. I'm going. I've already decided that. Emotions around money. That whole thing that I like to throw out there, the lack mindset or the abundant mindset. The certain emotions we have around money, there's excitement, which is when you oftentimes have that financial win. There's the anxiety when you have that financial loss. There's the calmness when you have exactly what you need, right? So there's that balance that we have to come into play. So when, Seth, we talk about redefining wealth or defining your personal financial health around that, how does one define what they need to truly feel financially healthy, happy, and content?
KB, that's a loaded question. We could spend some time there.
Well, let's unpack. Let's unpack. We're staying for vacation, eh?
Well, I think, again, a lot of us have been conditioned to believe that happiness will come once I get that dream relationship, once I get the dream job, once I pay off my debt, once I get my dream house, once I get my dream car, once I lose weight, like whatever that once I game is, it's conditional. And what happens is we never arrive there, because it's like this treadmill and you keep going because you get the house, but you want a bigger house. You get the car, but you want the new E version of the car.
Yeah.
And so I think step one is realizing that motivation is great, but motivation is based on external factors. We're motivated to get a certain amount of money. We're motivated for a certain goal. And true happiness and true abundance, true fulfillment, especially around money, comes from internal inspiration. So it comes from connecting to what is your truth? What are your values? What matters most to you? Is it being super healthy and having a lot of time outdoors and maybe camping and doing great trips in the woods? Is it being an artist and having time for creativity and spaciousness in your life? Is it your spiritual path? Is it doing inward journeys, meditation, and different events like that? So I think it starts with knowing who we are, really what drives us. And when we work with clients, we will look at wealth across 12 dimensions. One of those dimensions is in fact money, but then we also look at your career. Do you feel appreciated by the work that you're doing? Do you feel like your talents are being utilized? The impact you have in the community. Are you satisfied with the level of difference you're making in the community or the world at large? Your physical wealth. Are you happy with how your body looks, feels, and functions? Emotional. We could just keep going around. There's 12 different dimensions, and we're happy to share that with your community.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with understanding what is your definition of wealth, and then building your life accordingly, and then being okay with that maybe being very different from what your peers are doing, because comparison can be a really dangerous trap when we start to try to compare ourselves, especially materially, to other people, because someone will always have more money and a bigger home than you. So instead, just focus inward and say, who am I? What drives me? What are my top values? And how am I living in accordance with my values?
What do you believe is the holistic definition of wealth to you?
Well, I think a starting point is, it's really not once I have what I want, I'll be happy. It's once I'm happy, I'll have what I want. So it's an inside-out job.
Yes.
And being able to work on myself and tap into what my values were, what mattered most to me, really was the beginning of me becoming much happier in my life. And it became really an exponential change in my life. New doors started opening that never would have opened had I stayed in my former path. And it's been a wild ride ever since. I'm super grateful.
I love it. I love it. Because, we could go on and on about someone that just, you were talking about the cycle and just kind of spiraling down with the lack mindset. And a lot of people are like pretty ambiguous about that term. And lack mindset to me personally is feeling as though you don't have enough or that you'll never get there, right? It's almost a depressive state. But you were talking about pivoting, and I like to talk about perspective, right? Changing the perspective on things. And you were saying values, and everyone certainly has different values of how they perceive wealth, finance, needs versus wants, right? So back to our relationship with money. You grew up with wake up, grind, fix the fence, feed the pigs, whatever.
True.
And you were like, gotta go.
My dad used to get my brother and I up in the morning saying, get up, people die in bed. That was kind of his joke. He'd say, get up, boys, people die in bed.
What did you do?
It was kind of in jest, but like that was our wake up call. Get up, people die in bed. And so I had to get going, You don't rest on your laurels.
Really? And so then you're like, all right, I'm never going to sleep.
Never going to stop. Just keep going. And, try to be a superstar, academic and athlete and student government. I always had jobs and I just had to do more and more.
So my husband, and it was so funny we had this conversation because I feel like I've just been on this hamster wheel of like, go, go, go. I've been traveling. I've been out of the house for some housework. I've been literally like driving around in my car with a suitcase and my dogs. And then I get here and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I think I'm hitting a wall. And he does the whole statement, which you'll appreciate because you know him very well, is, like, we can sleep when we die. I know he's kidding, but I literally kind of that spark in me says, no, we don't do that. We take time for ourselves. So that's just like a little tangent on that. But back to our relationship with money and how we were conditioned. I think it's so fascinating how one has this evolution with money and with our relationship with money. Early adult, most of us are single. We have no commitments. We have very little taxes to pay. It's kind of like should be a blissful moment, yet we're all still so freaking stressed out. Sort of, what is my life? I don't know where I'm going. Right. And we're like, I know where I'm going. You have that outward projection. Then we have the early or the mid-early life, which is typically, if you want to talk standard American, marriage, kids. You were saying maybe you get a house. And then you have your mature life, which is pretty much the retirement phase. You feel more secure. So going back to that childhood conditioning now, this plays a huge part. Does a majority of the relationship one has with money always root from their parents or the parents' relationships with money? And I want to follow up with that with, do you know the psychology behind this and how it forms us in the future?
I would say that yes, when we're younger, we're largely shaped by our family's relationship with money, usually mom and dad. But in some environments, it could be the culture of the community that shapes us more. It could be the faith that the family is raised in. So there could be outside factors and other influences. But usually it's mom and dad are the formative influences as we're growing up. And if mom and dad are always worried about having enough and you see them stressing about money, it's very common that person then will embody that belief set that, gosh, I have to worry about running out of money myself. I don't know if I'll ever have enough. So yes, the mom and dad influence largely shapes us, but we have the opportunity to rewrite that script at whatever phase we are in life. We have the ability to say, what is the relationship I want to have with money? And then how can I support, positive steps to move in the direction of rewriting that operating system that's not serving me anymore?
So you make that sound really simple, Seth. And it's actually not.
No, it's not. I didn't say it was simple. I made it sound simple.
We have the ability to rewrite this story, which is so true. But I know, can I share a personal experience?
Please.
I know from my personal experience, it has taken me 30 some odd years to actually figure that out and be therapy work where my teacher's you can say I love money because it helps me contribute, give back, help others. Okay, so kind of my amp up routine is I like to be, mentally on it. I like to have, I guess what you say, like that magic mind. And I have a product here that I'm very particular about, and it is called Magic Mind. I don't approve of any product being a toxic-free lifestyle advisor, but I have one right here. It gets me going. It keeps me mentally like sharp and on it, and it gives me energy to focus on you. So let's have a little cheers here. I like to blend it with some water. Of course, it matches my nails. Here we go. Cheers. What's your story I'm curious, what's your story? How can people relate to you on this? Were you brought up in a household that was like, Seth, I want you to put those pennies in the piggy bank, or were they like, make sure you invest in yourself, do some self-care, go get a massage,
Definitely not the latter.
Yeah.
But I'll say that my parents, I think, did a pretty darn good job with raising my brother and I with a healthy money mindset. They didn't have a lot. My dad worked in the Fish and Wildlife Service. My mom was a teacher. They had, steady jobs, but it's not like we had anything excessive. And when I was 13 years old, they had me write out a budget of everything I would need for that whole year. Okay, a pair of basketball shoes, a couple pairs of Levi jeans. I'd come up with like a budget. And then they gave me a check for that entire amount. I remember it was like $300.
For
a long time ago.
The year?
For the year. And then I had to buy all my own clothes. I had to buy all my own stuff
That's
out of that $300 that I got. And I could
awesome.
write checks on my account to do that. And at the end of the year, I typically always had money left over, and my brother always ran out. It was just like they taught us agency with money and to understand the value of what things cost. So I was paying for my own things that they supported when I was 13 years old. When I went to college, they paid for me to go to Colorado State in-state. I went to UC Santa Barbara out-of-state, so I had to contribute toward the out-of-state difference. They wanted me to understand the value. If I chose to go to school in California, I was going to have to pay for the difference. So I worked my whole way through college. And I always had that sense of awareness of what things cost. With regard to America and America's relationship with money, 73% of Americans list money as being their number one stressor in life. So 73% people say money is my biggest stress. 40% of married couples in the US have said that they've lied to their spouse about money. So this is a show about being toxic free. There's a lot of toxic habits happening with people in their relationship with money.
Care to share?
So this
something that you've noticed personally or in the workplace?
Well, I've seen this. I've worked with hundreds of families over the course of my career, and I've seen how oftentimes this subject around money creates a divide. Maybe one spouse is judging the other for how they spend. Another spouse is judging the other one for working too much and not spending enough time at home. They're not saving enough. They compare themselves to friends or neighbors who have more or got the new car and they couldn't afford it. So I see this over and over again where a lot of people have a lot of strain and stress around money. And so that's where I realized that I could help optimize people's choices with regard to saving and investing and being smart with taxes and doing just the basic blocking and tackling of financial planning. But it wasn't necessarily rewriting the script in their head. And so the behavioral finance aspect of wealth management is becoming really an important growing topic to help people rewrite that script and understand their relationship with money so they can, yes, do the blocking and tackling of saving and investing, but they can also understand what their psychological relationship is with money and start to rewrite that.
Okay, so let's jump into that. Rewriting the script. Mm-hmm. How do you go about doing that? The psychological aspect as well.
Well, step one is awareness. So step one is really taking a measured look at your life and saying, where do I have some blockages when it comes to money? And maybe even asking your spouse, asking your friends, interview them. What's your sense of my relationship with money? And starting to just journal and think about, okay, wow, I do have some of these blockages. So step one is awareness. And then I think step two is starting to identify what are some tangible steps that I can take to improve upon those blockages. And that might include interviewing people. That might include getting some mentors or guides, listening to podcasts, reading books, going to a workshops, dealing with a professional, but starting to empower yourself of what are the measured steps I can take to make improvements upon these gaps that I've identified I have. And then once we've done that, then it's a matter of starting to build momentum and, it's atomic habits, right? It's like habit stacking.
I love it.
While you brush your teeth, I'm going to think about I'm going to have awareness to what my spending was this month, or I'm going to look at my portfolio once a month and go, gosh, I have this much in a Roth IRA, I have this much in a 401k, I've got this much debt, this is the interest rates I'm paying on this debt, this is how much I have in savings. I'm going to start to put energy into my finances just so I can create more awareness. Most people spend more time planning their vacations a year than they do looking at their finances. So, they don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And so
they don't, say it again?
They don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
Oh, okay, continue.
So again, it's just creating more awareness. Like I would even say, take a piece of paper and write down, what is your balance sheet? I own this car, I have this checking account, I've got this old 401k I never moved over, I have an IRA, I maybe have a brokerage account, I've got some jewelry. This is what I'm worth today. And that's just in the financial dimension. I also love to have clients think about what is their other forms of capital. So it might be an artistic form of capital. Wow, I'm an artist. I have this art that I create. I have all these brilliant creative ideas. That's artistic capital. It might be intellectual capital. I've got business ideas. I've got patents. I've got a lot of business, opportunities I could take advantage of. That's intellectual capital. It could be spiritual capital. It could be goodwill capital. You have a lot of relationships. How are you monetizing those relationships? How are you connecting people to these opportunities to leverage your network? So capital isn't just the numbers and the assets you list on the balance sheet. It's all these other holistic forms of capital that we all have. And the question is, how are you best deploying your gifts of your goodwill capital, your artistic capital into the world? And it might be that you're underutilizing that asset class as well.
Okay, hold on, because my mind, like squirrel brain, is thinking probably what everyone else is thinking and saying like, yeah, but like Seth, like how do I live off of those capitals that I cannot see, touch, feel, snuggle with, whatever.
Right.
Like how? Like creative? What?
Well, I appreciate the question. I'm not ignoring the financial piece. So the financial piece is important. We do need to know that we have enough money to pay our rent or pay our mortgage or pay our car payment. So there is the basic blocking and tackling of financial planning with real money that is important. Taxes, savings, debt management, cash flow. In addition to that, we might have a job where we don't feel that fulfilled and we don't feel like we're getting paid what we deserve to be paid.
True.
And we have these bills and we have some savings and we're just kind of managing in this not optimized state of income flow. If we then hit the pause button on the financial asset side and we say, gosh, what are my gifts that if I more fully express them into the world, I could have greater opportunity? And you might say, well, gosh, I'm a creative. I love doing this podcast. I have a message. I love telling stories. I love the power of storytelling. I like to uplift people. This is my currency that I want to bring into the world.
It is.
Boom. So that's your creative capital, right? So that's your sense, that's your spark, and you're now investing in that.
Okay.
So other people have their own versions of gifts that could be better deployed into the world. So it's not just how do I invest my 401k in stocks, bonds, cash, alternatives. It's how am I investing myself and my unique talents and my passions into the world for greater impact.
I love that. So in your experience, what does a healthy money relationship look like?
It's a balance of handling the day-to-day needs with actual money, right? So it's understanding what we have. It's spending less than what we have. It's paying down high interest debt. It's saving in hopefully tax advantaged ways. It's all these basic blocking and tackling of financial planning that's important. And it's not being so caught up in your identity being around materialism. It's understanding that currency is just energy and you want to own your internal connection to that energy, not external measurement of, oh, I got this car, or I have this house, or I have this Prada bag. So it's having a relationship with money that's healthy, but then it's also understanding that you aren't your money and your money is not you. You are all these other dimensions that you can feel proud of, that you're doing more with in the world. And I'd say, the pandemic was an interesting time because a lot of people during the pandemic were really stressed with money. Like maybe they were furloughed from their jobs, or they were worried about, investments going down. And at the same time, they had more time with their family. They weren't commuting to work. They weren't sitting in an office. They had time to take on new hobbies. They maybe were exercising more. Maybe they started a ceramics class. Maybe they started to, listen to more podcasts and get inspired from this amazing work because they had more time in their hands. So arguably, when you look at wealth across these 12 dimensions, many of them were richer in the areas of relationship, their social capital, their physical health, their intellectual pursuing of new interests. And yet their financial piece might have been less, but their other elements might have been more. So actually they were overall collectively richer.
So are there mindset habits that we can all practice that can help us manage these financial kind of energies, I guess you could say? And then I also want to jump into, after that, kind of the hardships that might come along with the change with money. Curveball.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. Well, I would love to share a couple quotes, which I think kind of are a good entry point for us. My friend Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money, said, "Move money and your choices with it away from fear and toward love." So when you said, what are the mindsets, what are the habits, I would say starting to embrace love energy around money instead of fear energy around money is a starting point.
Okay, so how does someone do that? So
record the thoughts in your head as you're thinking about your relationship with money. And oftentimes those thoughts are, if only I made more money. I got this bill coming up. They're not loving thoughts. They're stressful thoughts. They're judgmental thoughts. They're self-criticisms. They're limiting beliefs. These are all fear-based thought processes. So what would it look like? You know what it looks like when you love yourself with self-care around health, right? You have a morning practice, you go to bed early, you use clean products, you drink lots of water, you exercise, you get sunlight, you do grounding. Like you could just go on and on about this, right?
Yeah.
So let's adopt the same mindset toward our money relationships. Let's plant a garden with your fertile soil, your sunshine, your ample water to grow a healthier relationship with money that's more focused around love and loving yourself and loving your relationship with money. That creates a certain energy, that creates a certain abundance that then allows you to navigate tough times with a little more grace, with a little more kindness, and with an opportunity set of what's possible versus a scarcity mindset of, oh my gosh, I don't have enough and this is all going down the drain really quickly. So I just want to kind of offer that love frame. The same way we think about our physical health or our emotional practices, you can apply those to your money practices.
So jumping more into that, the mind frame, I'm going to call it the mind frame, because hardships are going to come up in life.
Yes.
You mentioned your story about having all of a sudden, these hardships, the onion started to peel back, right?
Yeah.
And you were exposed, right? Maybe these hardships come into people's lives, like loss of a job, foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, company failure, whatever it may be. So how do you navigate those hardships back into a loving state for yourself? Because that can be so drastically hard. When you're down in the deep, dark hole and you feel like you cannot get out, it can last years and years and years and years and years. So if you don't rewrite that story, how do you navigate that? How would you navigate that?
Well, I had to navigate that. And trust me, I know how hard it is. And I think it's starting with, first, it's okay that you're sad, you're scared. Give yourself empathy that this sucks. This sucks that I'm in this situation. This sucks that I made a poor choice with money again. This sucks that this relationship left me, in a bad shape. And self-empathize to a point, but then say, okay, I've honored my feelings. I've cried it out. I've sweated it out on a trail run. I've talked to my girlfriends. I've worked through my dynamics, and now I'm ready to move forward. So step one is self-empathy. It's okay. Then once you've done that, then you've cried those tears. Now it's like, what steps can I take? And you start to look at taking action. And that's where I think getting some mentors, starting to listen to books, empowering yourself with new techniques that you could apply to give yourself a step forward. It could be the smallest thing. It could be go volunteer and give yourself of service on a weekend and help kids that don't have parents, or Do what help an animal shelter. Do something where you feel like you're contributing. Start to feel the currency of contribution. That starts to give you a sense of abundance. And even when you might not have much in the financial realm, you start to see you have something to give. And then you start to feel better about yourself. And then you can take another step and you can start to drink more water and do some physical acts. So physical state really can impact your sense of abundance when it comes to money relationships. So I would say taking positive steps and then associate yourself with people who you admire their relationship with money. We are the result of the company we keep. And so who are people that you admire their relationship? They're not overly stressed. They seem to be generous. They seem to not be hoarding. They have just a fluidity with money. Go hang out with them. Ask them about their relationship with money. Be curious. Be a student. Be a learner. And in doing so, I think you'll start to find some techniques that will land for you and allow you to start to feel like you have a pathway forward.
I want to kind of share the story, or maybe you can share the story about when you were on a mission trip with your daughter and the whole penny in the palm. Go for it.
Yes, as I was awakening to a new definition of wealth being more holistic, I realized I wanted to give back a lot more. And I wanted my kids to experience that. So we had done local volunteering, but I wanted them to have a deeper dive into really seeing how much of the world operates. Over 50% of the world operates on less than $2 a day of income. And so I took my daughter to Guatemala, and later I took my son to Honduras, and we did a service trip where we got to stay with a host family in Guatemala, my daughter and I. There was 13 of us in a 3-bedroom home. We took a chicken bus up a hill and volunteered at an orphanage. And in this orphanage were these children who were just beautiful children, but many of them had never known their parents. Some of them had been living in trash dumps when they were rescued by this orphanage. And so we would spend time getting to know these kids, playing with these kids. We painted the walls. We bought them toys. We brought a bunch of clothes that my daughter had collected from all her friends for months prior that we could then distribute to these kids. And I had a relationship with one girl named Debbie. That was such a gift. She was absolutely adorable. And for whatever reason, she just took to me from day one. I was playing with all the kids, but Debbie would always want to come up, and in the morning she would hold my hand, and she wanted to go around and smell the flowers around their little campus. Campus is a generous term. There was a chicken fighting place right across the street, and there was like big trucks and dust, but it was a campus. So
trucks and dust and chickens.
But there were some flowers around. Aww. And so Debbie would take my hand and she would walk me around, and she would smell the flower. Then she'd yank me down and I'd smell the flower. Aww. And then I would kind of give this big animated, smile, and she would get the giggles, and she would take me to another flower. And then the other kids would come and we would all play together. And we became so bonded that when it was time to leave, I actually was like, I think I need to adopt this girl, because I just fell in love with her, and my daughter Sage fell in love with her too. But we weren't allowed to adopt. It wasn't allowed from this agency. And so we had to say goodbye because we had finished our volunteer term. And I had wanted to give Debbie something to just let her know how special she was to me. And I didn't bring any gifts or anything. I had my backpack on this day. And so I opened my backpack and I was just searching for something I could give her. And I found one American penny. And so I got down on my knee and I said, Debbie, I just want you to know that you've been such a gift to me. I so appreciate you. You're such an incredible young girl. And I want you to know that this penny will always hold the love and care that I have for you. And so I handed her this penny, and she had her little sequin dress that was really funny. It was really glittery, she wore it every day. And she took this penny and she put it in her hand, and I gave her a hug of a lifetime. And I said goodbye, and I had just tears in my eyes. And I said goodbye to the other kids, and my daughter said goodbye to the kids. And we got on the bus going back at the end of our last volunteer day. And Sage, my daughter, said, Dad, it was interesting. When I said goodbye to Debbie, her hand was clenched. And I asked her, Debbie, why is your hand clenched? And she looked left and she looked right, and she slowly opened her hand to my daughter, and she showed the penny, and she said, Tengo un regalo de su padre. I have a gift from your dad. And she showed this penny as this like sacred gift that she got. And it was amazing because my daughter took a photo in that moment. She had her phone and she said, I just had to take a photo of this moment. And so I have this photo of Debbie's hand holding the penny with her sequin dress on. And it's just one penny. Think how often we take a penny and we just toss it aside. It means nothing to us.
We don't even pick it up.
We don't even pick it up. It's dirty. Who cares? It's a penny. But in this case, that penny had tremendous value because it had meaning. And so money is about meaning. Value is about meaning. And the value and the meaning that I had with that beautiful little girl, Debbie, I'll never forget.
Oh my gosh. I'm like about to cry.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering, I'm like, where's Debbie? Like, where's Debbie?
I know. I've thought about it.
How old is she now? Is she wearing the sequin dress still? Like,
Definitely
what?
wouldn't fit her. I know. She's still in my heart. Is where she is.
That's a amazing, really inspirational.
And now,
story.
whenever I see pennies on the ground, I pick them up and I send a wish to Debbie.
Oh,
I'll forever associated pennies with Debbie now.
Oh, I love that. And may I have to say, what a name for a little girl. So I want to go back into, we talked about getting the tangibles though. Mm-hmm. Because, let me just say, Porsche Taycans are awesome, right? An EU vehicle that is also a sports car, sign me up, right?
Shopping at Air One's kind of nice.
Air One, hey, don't go to Neiman Marcus, but Air One, sure, I'll pay $100 there any day because I know that piece of asparagus is paying me back, right? So those are my investments.
Right.
But we talk about the relationship greed versus financially wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. What is the difference between greed and being financially conservative?
Well, being financially conservative isn't necessarily unhealthy. You can be financially conservative and have a healthy relationship with money where you just choose not to take much risk. You might still be generous in measured ways. Being greedy is when you are actually feeling a sense of lack around money and you feel like you need to control it and you maybe need to control others with it, and there's never enough. So greed has, I think, a negative mental association with it, where being financially conservative really is a choice that some people make, and they're willing to give up, the risk equals return relationship. Like, okay, I might not have as great of returns on my investments, but I like sleeping at night knowing that I'm just going to make my steady 5%, and that's good for me. I like your analogy that you made with relationships, how when you were ready to invite in your husband into your life, that you started to look at other couples and find couples that you really respected and kind of monitor their energy that they had with each other, their playfulness, their ease, their communication style, and start to say, that's what I want. And I think the same thing is true with money. So we can look at people and their relationship with money in the same way that you come up with your list of, Jay Shetty, who I just got to spend time with 2 weeks ago. Oh. Had an amazing time with him. Who's a very inspirational person, very present, and you can see people who have an equally high value relationship with money. And so look at these people. Think of them as mentors, even if you don't ask them to be your mentor. Like, call them your mentor, your personal advisory council. These are my money advisory council members, and I'm going to look at how they operate with money, how they relate to it, and I'm going to take notes, and I'm going to apply some of those learnings into my life.
Sure, that's beautiful. But when I think about greed, right? You always think about Scrooge, right?
Yes.
Scrooge, and he's like,
grumpy. Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna donate to your lemonade stand. He drives right past those kids, and he's like, meh. Yeah. And they're like 25 cents. And he's like, 25 cents? What, back in the day it was 5 cents, whatever. Exactly. I could go on and on and on, because I feel like sometimes I'm a bit of a Scrooge. I'm like, inflation on lemonade stand, right? That's from powder, Anyways, I digress. Worth and money. I think this is so huge. I've lived it so much in my life. And I do want to jump back really quickly before we go into that. When, bringing the other person up that does have the healthy relationship with the money, looking at that so it can boomerang effect onto you. Yeah, you did it. Awesome. Good for you. And so it's like, the internal to the external. So when you do get the Porsche Taycan, it's like, this is my cherry on top of the sundae. Mm-hmm. I know who I am at the core, my values, right? I like to help the environment or whatever, and not, buy gas all the time too, like investing on that.
Right.
You know, and this is my cherry on top of the sundae. But going back to the self-worth now, worth and money, you know, we were talking about, we live in a culture of based upon productivity, but how do you see yourself? Self-image. How do you perceive yourself? How your mental health, self-esteem are shaped from this self-perception. Mm-hmm. But how do you perceive yourself with the relationship of money, right? That's a strong question.
And when you redesign or reframe your relationship with money, you're actually reframing your life. So redefining success helps you redefine your life. It has a huge impact. So allowing yourself to say, what does success look like for me? How do I want to feel when I'm successful? So I want to feel loved. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel like I have space in my life. I want to feel like I'm contributing. I want to have incredible experiences with people I care about. Like if that's a path that you say, gosh, this feels like success to me, those elements, then you just reverse engineer and say, what do I need to do to build that? Or do I actually already have it? Am I already living a life that I would want? As long as we want less than we have, by definition, we're already rich. So it's not always this chasing game that sometimes, you know, media has us think that we need to get bigger and more beautiful and better haircuts and better clothes and all these things to finally be enough. We'll never feel enough if we're chasing an external pursuit to get there.
Can I play devil's advocate though? We talked about the cherry on top of the sundae though. Mm-hmm. But if you are self-fulfilled already,
then you can have all those things.
Then you can
100%.
have all those things.
You just can't think that those things will give you the fulfillment on the inside.
Exactly.
It's an inside-outside game.
Yes.
It starts inside.
Right.
And then the abundance starts rolling around you outside.
Because I do not want to knock anyone that is like, but the art of the car, I know I keep going back to the car, the art of the car or the art of the house.
Aesthetics are beautiful.
Aesthetics are beautiful.
Yeah.
But the aesthetics do not happen unless the aesthetics, you know, are cultivated, are grown within your garden of life itself, right?
Exactly. And if you're feeling stuck in life right now, we're talking about a garden, here might be an invitation. When sometimes we do home remodels, we build an atrium when we remodel the home. And what is an atrium? An atrium is a space for the light to come in. It's a place for plants to grow, and it's spaciousness. There's openness. So maybe if you're feeling stuck, you can think about inviting in a midlife atrium in your life. What does a midlife atrium look for you? Where can you give yourself some space? Where can you let the light in? How can you grow? And allow this to kind of reshape your path going forward.
And I like to say on the garden aspect is, you know, guys, weeds are flowers too.
They are.
And no mud, no lotus.
Mm-hmm.
No
Exactly.
mud, no lotus.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the self-care, how do you feel worthy to receive or live in abundance? Take care of yourself. Invest in yourself. Choose what those investments are, right? Ramit Sethi, he, you know Ramit?
No. Oh, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if not, y'all should
Yes.
tune into Ramit. He talks about, you know, investing in yourself in certain ways, right? So if you have to go to the expensive gym because you're like, I love to work out, that is a part of me. That is a puzzle piece to my essential puzzle in life, right? Then invest in that special gym more than you invest in perhaps, you know, your car. Maybe you're like, no, I like to walk more.
Right.
So it's about investing in yourself. So how do you feel worthy to receive or live in abundance, Seth?
Well, I think for me, it's wanting to make sure I'm living my priorities. So knowing my priorities and living them for me is what abundance is about. And you know, I've recently moved. So I was in Santa Barbara for a long time. I've recently moved to Austin. And I've been really taking advantage of walking everywhere.
Right.
So I'm walking like over 5 miles a day. I'll walk to the gym. I'll walk back. I'll go get a smoothie. I'll walk back. I'll walk to the lake and I'll walk around the path. I'm trying to do as many walking meetings as possible because I just love being in nature. I love being outside. For me, that's abundance. Having time outside, meeting with people that inspire me, feeling like I'm making a difference and giving back, feeling healthy. Those are all ways that I'm cultivating an abundance in my life. And the relationship I have with wealth is I feel very blessed to have what I have, but I don't take it for granted. I'm a good steward with what I have, and I'm inviting more in. I'm happy to have more. And I'm inviting more in for all of my clients too. I'm happy for them to have more, but not at the expense of their fulfillment. So life is about a lot more than numbers on a balance sheet. It's this more holistic lens. And so if I can help people feel uplifted in their life, and I've helped a lot of clients in different ways where they came to me for money issues, but then ended up helping them with life issues, frankly. So I had a woman who had gone through a divorce, and she had 2 adult daughters that had gone off to college. And she had more than enough money when I did her financial plan, but she was sad. She goes, I've lost my sense of self. I was an active mom. I was an active wife. I feel like I'm not contributing. My daughters are in college, long ways away from where I live. And I don't know, what's going to bring me joy. And so I started talking to her about what would bring her joy. And she loved skincare. She loved skincare. She loved helping her friends with skincare. And so she became an esthetician, a licensed esthetician.
Nice.
We took her former husband's office and converted it into a esthetician salon in her home. And then she started to donate skin services for single moms.
Ooh, that is
so she worked with local nonprofits to invite single moms to come and get a facial. She made incredible friends. She felt like she was giving back. She had a whole new pep in her step from doing this work that gave her a sense of meaning.
Right.
So so it wasn't about her having enough money. It was about her finding some spark of joy and purpose in her life.
Well, and I think, spark and joy, yes, but also spark and joy, I want to say within yourself, right? Giving yourself that pep in your step, that motivation is really important, especially, we did talk about the limited beliefs, the limited mindset, the lack mindset, however you want to call it. And you were talking about your own personal experience, which we jumped upon a couple of times, but getting out of that deep, dark hole and getting back into the higher state of, I want to say consciousness, awareness. You put it so nicely, giving yourself the empathy, right? I mean, personal experience speaking here, we'll say 20s. We'll talk about the 20s because everyone in their 20s thinks, I'm the SHIT.
Right.
Try not to cuss. I'm the SHIT. Like, I know what I'm talking about, but really inside, you're like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, this is the worst part of my entire life. I mean, I had to, when I moved from Kansas to LA, that financial difference, the pace of life was deer in headlights. Like, what did I just do to myself? But I was like, I know I have to be here because I'm I'm so out of my element in Kansas. I'm made for more purpose. But I had to, Seth, no joke, I had to sell back food to make ends meet, to make rent, to pay a room in someone's house. I had to sell my clothes, I had to work 5 jobs at one point, I was dog sitting, house sitting, cleaning up sweat at a yoga studio, nannying in the evenings. I was doing all the things. And was I taking care of myself? No, I was not. But at the end of the day, I knew my values deep down within myself, that I was in California for a reason. I love to be outside. So at that point, I went through those moments of horrible, not so pleasant, let's just say self-image, mental health at the time, which was not so fun, but it opened me up to the empathy, the awareness, the consciousness, which I think, to be honest, as I talk to younger children, oh my God, I feel old when I say that because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not in my 20s, what? You have to sometimes go through that mud to become the lotus in life that you want to be. Not everything is given very easily. And if it is, guess what? You don't have that story. So I just want to point that out to people, that you can be in a hard position. you can still come out to rewrite the story that you want. You just have to keep going and investing in yourself.
Yeah, I call that blessings in disguise. And also I think about it like a red thread. So when I used to speak at my kids' school, I would pass out a red piece of thread, and I'd have them all have a little piece of red thread, and I would tell my story about how I thought I was going to be this major, but I was that major. I thought I was going to get this job, but I got that job. I thought I was going to be in this relationship, but that didn't work. And essentially at the time, each of these pivots felt like failures. Oh, I didn't get the job. I didn't get the relationship. But over time, if you look back, I was able to realize that door closed, but this door opened. And it was like a red thread was connecting everything. There was like a through line. Because that relationship ended, this relationship started. Because that door closed, this door opened. And just trusting in life, there's a red thread that's guiding us. At the time of the decision or the failure, we don't realize it. But as we look forward, as we move forward and look back, we're able to realize that indeed, it's all happening for us. Life is happening for us. And just trusting that even the tough times can still be points of advancement.
Share what you know about money dysmorphia.
It's very common, and it's not always just self-imposed. Oftentimes it's induced from environments that we're in, just like body dysmorphia, right? Like when we see the supermodels and the thinner the better, and then they feel pressure to look like them. We see that. Like, what does the media highlight? It shows people with their jets and their fancy cars and their bling bling and their fancy clothes and their vacations. And it's hard not to feel like we're missing out when we just see over and over again people doing things or having things that we don't have. And so I think the society's kind of definition of success, which is based on materialism, has helped create this dysmorphia that's and it's a different form of pandemic. It's a dysmorphia pandemic of materialism and people feeling like they don't have enough. So the best advice for me, from my experience, is just turn it off. Go in nature. So allow yourself to connect again to what is true for you, what brings you joy, who are the people that love you for you. You don't need to compare. You don't need to try to chase. Just move within, and on that journey within, you're going to find a lot of joy and contentment that isn't about comparing yourself to anyone else.
Yeah, maybe like go back to the tools in your toolbox that you know best about yourself.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree on that?
100%.
But then there's also that other part of what I like to talk about is money camouflage, right? Maybe this person is barely able to pay the bills, yet they do drive that tennis ball colored Lamborghini, right? And you're like, what? So what about that?
Oh, it's out there. And so that's the other thing. If you're comparing yourself to others, you have no idea what their life is like underneath the hood. I've dealt with people that had beautiful homes and they had so much debt they were, trapped by it. Or people that drive fancy cars that behind the scenes, don't have much as far as financial abundance, and people that drive old beat up cars that have a ton of it, so you can't measure a book by its cover, and just realize that everyone is on their own journey with their financial abundance path, and you have the ability to, write your own journey in a way that's going to serve you in your future.
Write your own journey, serve yourself in the future. There was a University of Chicago study that mentioned when a wife makes more than her husband, marriages struggle. Many relationships that do not conform to the traditional norm of the man playing the role of provider do not fare well, with those marriages being 50% more likely to end in divorce.
Wow.
So you mentioned about many relationship problems are around money. So how do you navigate this with your significant other?
So in the case where the woman is earning more and the man is earning less, or maybe he's home with the kids and she's the provider, I've seen that happen, and I've seen that happen in a very healthy way. I think it's oftentimes, men have a need to feel relevant, and society has put relevance around providing as one of the key forms of relevancy for a man. And women want to feel noticed. They want to feel beautiful. And if they aren't noticed, or if men don't feel relevant, then that can create this sense of lack in a person. And that's just that's traditional sense. There's of course opposite examples of that. So I would say if you're in a relationship and the woman is earning more and she loves her job and the husband's supporting her to go do that and he's home making meals and taking care of the house, good for them. That's amazing. I don't think there should be any problem with that. I understand that they might feel judged by others, but that's, what people think of you is none of your business.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
What other people think about you is none of your business.
Exactly.
Going into external validation. External validation, jumping back into that, does this truly bring you peace? I think we all kind of know the answer.
Of course not.
It's
nice to have.
The marriages might fall apart. You might get sick. It might all go away. The
Exactly.
Malibu house might be
Boom.
gone. Spoof gone.
Yeah.
So, Seth, finally, what are some practical steps or takeaways you should or actually could provide our listeners who are looking to embark on a journey towards a more toxic-free financial life?
I'd like to invite you to feel empowered, that you have the ability to rewrite your script with money, to associate yourself with people who have healthy relationships with money. And I love the Mary Oliver quote, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What is your wild and precious life that you've dreamed of? And how is money a part of that equation? And what can you do to build that life that has an upliftment and empowerment around money that can help you be the best version of you? And that best version of you, yes, has abundance in the material form to some degree, whatever degree is going to support your lifestyle. But it also has a form of you feeling good about yourself, you having relationships, positive health, emotional well-being, feeling like you're contributing in the community. It allows you to feel intellectually stimulated. You feel spiritually centered to a framework beyond yourself. It's a holistic definition of success that really matters. And if you follow that more balanced approach, I think that you can live a very beautiful life.
I love that. And I think we both agree about the investment that you have in yourself, in your life, right? It's compound interest. And I love this quote. We're just getting all quotey today.
Yeah, we're getting the quotes out, yeah.
The compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And Einstein said that.
Yes.
Super brilliant.
Yes.
So let's jump into some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
What is your morning routine?
So first thing I do when I wake up is I keep my eyes closed. And I try to just take a moment to feel present and to feel grateful for the fact I woke up. So I start with a gratitude moment before I do anything else. Then I usually go down outside and I do just like a 1 minute of grounding on the grass barefoot. And I like to just get the sunlight going to kind of start my circadian rhythm. And I like to just feel my feet on the ground. And then usually I go and work out.
God, I love that. What's your workout?
Different things. I mean, I'm walking the Camino next month. So right now I'm trying to walk a lot because I'm walking the Camino in Spain and I'm doing this trek in Bhutan. So I'm trying to get my walking, miles in. But I also like to swim. I like to, I've done triathlons. I like to do yoga. I like to do HIIT workouts or weighted workouts. I just like to stay healthy because that's what allows me to go do things I want to go do.
We'd be really good workout accountability partners, even though we probably don't need it. But I'd be like, let's go swim, rise and grind. No, I'm just kidding. I'd be like, let's go.
You have your husband for that.
Yeah, right. right. What is your everyday non-negotiable?
My non-negotiable is to not try to uplift people every day. I like to help people's eyes shine in ways that they uniquely shine. So whether I'm working with coworkers, clients, friends, people in the community with my community work, for me, I want to be a spark plug of inspiration every day.
You want to uplift them every single day.
I do. Not every person I run across, but every day I hope to make someone's eyes shine brighter. At least one person.
I just love that. Being the light, like that's why I'm doing a show about toxins, yes.
Yeah.
But I want to bring such lightness and brevity to something so kind of scary and overwhelming and dark. Because it is there. Within every darkness, there is a light. Every
100%.
shadow, there is a light.
100%.
Right? What is one easy toxic-free habit we can all start practicing today?
Well, this isn't necessarily about money, but I'm a big believer in trying to minimize waste. So I'm into sustainability, and so many people are drinking plastic bottles of water nonstop. You could have one reusable glass, take it with you, fill it up, and that could make a difference to just try to use a little less plastic and try to just drink more healthy water from a glass. It's all good.
I agree.
So when it comes to money, one hack I would say would be to really try to save as early as you can, even if it's a small amount. It could be $100 a month. That, with compounding interest, can really grow into something. So it's never too late to start, and you can never start too little.
So jumping into that really quickly, save how?
Well, first I'd always look at tax advantaged options. So a Roth IRA is great. A traditional IRA is great. If you have your own business, a SEP IRA is great. A 401k if your provider offers one. So some type of tax advantaged retirement account allows that money to compound without the impact of taxes.
Cool. We could jump into that at another episode about specific investments.
How to invest money.
The nitty gritty. We had to kind of surface level it. And then what is your nightly routine?
Well, my nightly routine is when I go to bed, I will always take time to reflect on my day. And I have a gratitude app. So I said I start my day with a gratitude. I try to enter, what brought me smile moments that day. And so I will do a quick, kind of notation of gratitude. And then I do like to journal. I don't do it every night, but I do like to journal. And I also have my cat with me on bed. So I like to snuggle my kitty cat.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Little fur on skin. I got you. And Seth, where can all of our listeners connect, follow you, listen to you further?
Sure. Well, they can find me in social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. They also can go to my company website, which is missionwealth.com, my personal website, which is sethstreeter.com. And I invite you to take a look at my TED Talk, where I talk about redefining wealth and the untethered life.
The untethered life. So good. So good.
Thank you.
Follow and subscribe to our show wherever you'd like to listen to your podcasts. We're on YouTube at Toxic-Free with KB, Instagram at toxicfree.kb, TikTok, Toxic-Free with KB, and remember to please send in a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We would love your support. And remember, you're doing your best, and your best is great. All right, it wouldn't be a Toxic-Free with KB episode without talking about our hot habits. So hot habits, something I've discovered more and more often is mini getaways. Many getaways to fill your cup back up. Most recently, my husband and I just took a 45-minute journey down the road to Ojai. And why did I do it? And why do I hope to continue this practice more and more into that habit? Because disconnecting to reconnect to yourself and to my husband is pretty much vitally important into my livelihood. Getting sleep. I cannot stress this enough. Sleep. Super important. Regaining that 8 hours a night. I needed it more than water itself, more than life itself. The change of environment, seeing something else, a different type of tree, putting your feet in the grass if you live in a city. Inspiration for my creativity. Perhaps visiting an art gallery, a different farmer's market, talking to someone else with a different insight in life. And also, I think one of the biggest things for me, someone that loves pattern, is adapting to new habits in my regularly scheduled routine. So yes, gonna make this a hot habit more and more often. And jumping into trendy trends, something I find really interesting lately is the practice of spiritual hygiene. Have you heard of that? Specifically the term limpia. So with people leaning heavily on spiritual wellness these days and intuition in the past year, it's no surprise that a deeper emphasis on energy work, as well as spiritual hygiene, especially in Latin American cultures, are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the term limpia that I want to throw out to you is emerging as a wellness trend this year. And I was reading more about this third generation intuitive healer. And so in limpia sessions, energetic adjustments are done to move the body and the chakras back into balance. We work on taking those moments and resetting the frequency within ourselves, clearing out those old beliefs, creating new ones, right? Getting that inspiration, that zest of life back. So it's basically getting a spiritual oil changed. You might leave more peaceful, more centered, kind of restarting that phase of your life, that birthright, right? So it might sound kind of intense, but trust me, folks, it can be very, very simple. Would I dive into this more and more often? I've done energy work before, and I would say, heck yes. I know exactly how I feel afterwards. So give it a shot. All right. See y'all next time. This is a Kilo Bravo Media production, brought to you by Rainbow Creative.